नमस्कार, सत श्री अकाल, राम राम सा, खम्माणी, वणक्कम, प्रणाम। मैं आपकी होस्ट गायत्री देवी। हमारे साथ थोड़े से गैप के बाद जुड़े हैं पीवीआर नरसिम्हा राव सर, who's a Vedic astrologer. He also has a website vedicastrologer.org. में हमने शुरू किया था पॉलिटिकल एस्ट्रोलॉजी. आई थिंक वी विल टेक दैट क्रेडिट टू आवर शोल्डर्स. वी वर द फर्स्ट ones in the YouTube domain to start the political astrology, and others have taken a cue from there, from the the interesting domain that this is. बहुत मजेदार है ये. प्लैनेट्स की पोजीशन बहुत सारे लोग मानते हैं, बहुत सारे लोग नहीं मानते हैं. जो नहीं मानते हैं उनके लिए भी, और जो मानते हैं उनके लिए भी. लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड. बहुत सारी जियो पॉलिटिकल डेवलपमेंट्स हो रही हैं, और मेरा जो पहला और स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड क्वेश्चन होगा, भारत के इर्द गिर्द बहुत कुछ हो रहा है. भारत हैज कम इनटू द सेंटर स्टेज नाउ. हमें खतरा सबसे ज्यादा किससे है? बिकॉज वी, ऐसा लग रहा है कि हम फूक फूक कर कदम रख रहे हैं इस वक्त. वी आर वेरी वेरी कॉशियस. वेरी वार्म वेलकम पेरियाना जी.
Thank you, Gayatri ji. Good to be back on this channel. The question you asked has two answers. One is, if you ask me who's the biggest risk to India in the long run, I still maintain that it is China. But in the short term, it is basically the US deep state and the machinations of US deep state to basically manifest a coup similar to what they did in Bangladesh against Modi ji. So that is the biggest challenge to India in the short term. Looking at Modi ji's chart and looking at India's chart in the next 1 year, there is a danger of some efforts to dethrone Modi ji and install a government that is more favorable to the US deep state. But the thing is, people combine this with the tariff war that is going on right now, the trade war that's going on. The tariffs went into effect yesterday against India, 50% tariffs. And people assume that this tariff war and the deep state efforts to topple the Modi government are coupled. In my opinion, they are not exactly coupled. There is some synergy between them, but the thing is they are totally different. But the thing is, trade war may end sooner. It doesn't necessarily have to go on for the next 1 year. So in the short term, is basically the challenges in managing the US. One is managing the relationship with US, especially the trade deal. Second is managing the efforts by the deep state, which are not really formal; they are informally happening under the surface. So those are more challenging. So this is in the short term, but in the long term, I still maintain China is the biggest challenge to India.
China is the biggest challenge. Why do you say so? That we are having some goody talks. We are having some RIC talks, but you still feel China. By the way, for my viewers' information, China has made a fleet of nuclear weapons in last 6 months.
Yes.
There's been a tremendous activity. There is raw report. There is intelligence report. The government of India already knows. किसके लिए तैयार कर रहे हैं? Who are they preparing for? जी.
Probably the main target is US, probably centered around Taiwan. China probably knows that a conflict around Taiwan with US is inevitable towards the end of this decade. So they are probably preparing for that. But at the same time, some of it may be also meant for India because it's been close. But the China-India closeness will definitely raise some alarms in the think tanks in Washington, D.C. And of course, these think tanks don't exert the same kind of influence they exert on the US government like in the previous governments. But the thing is, even in this current government, they do have some influence basically. So as these think tank, initially they may think, oh, this is just a play, this is not permanent. But the thing is, if they become really nervous about this, they think that this is real. That will really cause chaos. And one more thing is, if you look at Trump's chart itself, he's running Jupiter Dasha. And as I said, Jupiter is Achyari. So it's not really a great time for him. And Jupiter is in the 8th house from his Janma Rashi. So it's not a great transit for him. So, and moreover, when he took these decision on tariffs, especially basically when he went nuclear on India, basically this 50% and all this, at that time, Mars and Ketu were closely conjoined in Simha Rasi, which is Trump's Lagna. So He's basically Mars and Ketu combination doesn't show a calculated decision. It shows something very hasty, something that is kind of like a mistake, because Ketu is the planet of mistake. So it is likely that he overestimated his hand and underestimated India's resilience and India's aggressive response. He probably expected that India will succumb very easily. They'll just cave in and make the deal that US wants. So my expectation is, as India moves closer to China, US will become more desperate, and this is the right thing for India to do. Let US become more desperate and then deal with US. I don't think that US India relations have completely collapsed. They will be revived, and this is just a temporary setback. And as soon as next month, but more likely in the October, November, December timeframe, see, around November 10th, Jupiter will be stationary at around 2 degrees in Cancer, and that is very close to where Moon is in India's independence chart. So, Moon, the third lord in India's independence chart, and he's a key planet because there are several planets in Cancer. So he's basically the dispositor of many key planets in India's independence chart. So that Moon is being triggered by Jupiter, who's stationary. So that is a good time for India in terms of relationship, stature in the world. So around that time, 3 weeks plus or minus the date, November 10th, it is likely that a trade deal will be made with US. So as early as next month, but more likely up November timeframe. But as late, in case that doesn't happen, in the worst case, absolute worst case, second half of 2026, things will be resolved. By that time, things will be clear. So the thing is, this is just a phase. Don't get carried away. Don't think that this is permanent. India and US will come get back, and India should use China as a card against US. Just like, see, I'm very sure China, they have their own discussions with US on many things, and they have their own politics with US. So they will, if India becomes close with China, they will just use India to basically get a better deal with US. So they don't really care about India. This is just a play that they are making. So we should do the same thing. India should do the same thing and use China as a card in the politics with US. So I'm not really one of those people who thinks that the world order is being changed and China and India are the new buddies, new best friends. That is not at all my view. That is a mistaken view.
But there are news coming of or some kind of sabotage and coup happening within the BJP against the Modi government. Especially one leader is being named. He's been called the mastermind, who has PM ambitions. Do you see something like that happening in coming months? Because you've been saying that this government may not complete the term.
Yeah, since Modi ji's first term, I've been saying in the first term itself, I said that he will win 3 terms, but he will not finish the third term. But my expectation is he will not be thrown out. He will basically leave by on his own accord. He will basically leave out of his own volition. He will not be forced out. And all these talk about coup, etc. I don't take it very seriously. It is possible. The As I said, India's chart, BJP's chart, and Modi ji's chart do suggest some obstacles and some serious challenges in the next roughly 11 months or 1 year. So uh, the external forces may use either opposition parties like Rahul Gandhi, Congress, Kejriwal, etc., and also some people within BJP, within NDA, who are basically willing to listen to them. But I don't expect that to be successful. And I don't know who's the leader that you are talking about, but some of the BJP leaders whose charts I have seen, Amit Shah ji, I don't expect him to basically desert Narendra Modi ji, and also I don't expect him to become prime minister. He will be in power. He will be behind the scenes, and he will have important role within the party and within the government. But I don't expect him to be the next prime minister. I don't expect his health to allow that. And I've seen Nitin Gadkari's ji's chart. I have a reliable chart of his, and I don't see potential to become prime minister in his chart. And I don't have Rajnath Singh's chart, but I have a chart, but it's not very reliable. But based on that chart, again, he doesn't have potential. So as I said in the past, the among the BJP leader charts I have seen, the three charts that I see with potential to become prime minister are Yogi Adityanath, Devendra Fadnavis ji, and then Annamalai ji. And Annamalai ji, he has a long way. He first has to become Tamil Nadu chief minister. That itself may take a cycle or two of election cycle or two. So he's far away from becoming prime minister. And Devendra Fadnavis ji, he has Maharashtra to take care of now. So he also has several years before he comes on the national scene and possibly becomes prime minister. So that leaves me with Yogi Adityanath ji. But the thing is, I don't see Yogi ji as somebody who will do this kind of behind the scenes machinations. He will basically become prime minister through the royal path, like they say basically, Rajmarg pe chalke Pradhan Mantri banenge. He will not really do this kind of crazy things. So I, there may be other people who will do this kind of stuff, but it will be foiled by Modi ji and Amit Shah ji. I'm not concerned about the the coup within the BJP party. The one thing that people should really be concerned about is actually the allies leaving, because BJP is dependent on the support from allies to basically keep the government. So I don't expect Chandrababu Naidu of Andhra Pradesh is a very pragmatic leader, and particularly he depends on Pawan Kalyan. And I don't, not for the survival of his current state government, but in the long run to establish his son Nara Lokesh ji as the next leader of the party. He really needs Pawan Kalyan to be behind them. And one thing I'm confident of is, even some leaders within BJP may want to backstab Narendra Modi ji, but Pawan Kalyan, I do not expect him to backstab Narendra Modi ji. He will have tremendous admiration for Narendra Modi ji, and he will do everything in his hands to basically keep Narendra Modi ji around and basically not do anything crazy, and definitely not allow the opposition to come to power. So I'm not concerned about TDP support going away. So in general, basically, and moreover, I was expecting earlier from June 2025 till June 2026. This is a time that is actually conducive, particularly towards the end of this year. This is a conducive time for NDA to actually grow. So even though there are challenges to Modi ji, they will tackle them well, and instead of basically challenging them, opposition will is likely to be splintered. So in other words, there may be leaders in the opposition who give up on Rahul Gandhi, who move on, who decide to move on from him. So I do expect in the middle of these challenges, they will actually succeed in destroying the opposition. So some parties which are in the Indie alliance may actually join NDA. So in other words, NDA may grow before June 2026 in the coming uh, 10 months or so. There is a chance of NDA growing. So the thing is, so to summarize, it will seem like there is a big challenge. There will be a lot of nervousness, because that is the nature of the current time for BJP and Modi ji, and also for India. There will be that political instability and tension. But in the end, they will survive. They will not only survive, but they will flourish. They will actually weaken the opposition.
Right. Moving further from there, the next biggest challenge that is facing India is the internal security, especially coming from the side of Bangladesh and the Pakistan. Pakistan is still okay, but the infiltration that is happening like massive level from the Bangladesh side. So internal security, how do you see it in next couple of months?
Actually, next 6-7 months is very critical. This is a time when uh, the external forces that I mentioned, which want to topple the Modi government, they will look at various fault lines that exist within the Indian society in terms of rich and poor, in terms of basically uh, rich are taking advantage of you. Modi is in the pocket of Adani, and Adani is exploiting you guys. So that's one narrative. The other fault line is caste. So basically creating this narrative that certain upper castes are taking advantage of lower castes, and then tying Modi ji with the upper castes. And similarly, religion. So Modi is anti-Muslim and Muslims are being persecuted. So that narrative. And as you said, basically from Bengal and a few other places, getting the getting the influx of Bangladeshis. So all this, they will pursue all these angles in the next 6-7 months. So next 6-7 months is a critical time in terms of internal security, and the little things also they will exploit them, and they will magnify them, and they will make them seem like something, some disaster is happening in India, and create that narrative in the Indian media as well as international media, and try to create this sense of panic among people, so that uh, there can be a massive unrest in the streets, and then the leaders can come out and demand Modi ji to be dethroned, and also give an excuse to some NDA allies to basically ditch Modi ji. So this effort will be strong in the next 6-7 months. But the thing is, I also expect, but looking at the charts of BJP, Modi ji and Amit Shah ji, I expect that Amit Shah ji will be very aggressive. He will not sit back and react to all this. He will be proactive in the coming months, and he will take all this head on. And especially when it comes to Bangladesh and Bengal, etc., the central government is likely to be more aggressive in the state of Bengal, West Bengal, and try to tackle this, and try to take the West Bengal government, Mamata Banerjee government head on, and try to put them in a spot, and try to basically get the central government involved, central forces involved in trying to curtail some of this. So it is going to be a very crazy time next 6-7 months. There will be serious efforts on the other side, but also there will be good countermeasures from the side of BJP. But what will happen is, these countermeasures will also be billed as India is being aggressive, and they are basically being they are using inhuman efforts. They're basically racist. They're discriminating against Muslims. So they will try to project all these narratives in the international media, and try to put pressure through various media houses and various uh, sympathetic governments. They will try to put pressure on India, but I expect that this is an important phase for India. I do expect that the central government will be very aggressive, and they will ignore all the criticism, and they will keep the next election in mind, the West Bengal state election that is coming up in mind, and take some aggressive actions which will help with some of the security issues, especially with respect to Bangladesh.
Very interesting. So internal security will be having some kind of hiccup, because recently we have seen a lot of things happening. Though because of Trump, those things are not being covered much in the media. But 2,000 kgs of RDX has been caught right on a normal bus, right from
Mhm,
in Bagpat itself. It just happened a couple of days back.
mhm.
Then a lot of terrorists are being caught at the same time. There's an addition on our border issues, and that is from the Myanmar side and Nepal side. How do you see these two neighbors going further?
I don't really expect any major tensions from those two neighbors. The main neighbors that we should be concerned about are Bangladesh and Pakistan. I don't expect big nuisance from Myanmar and Nepal. But the thing is, unfortunately, it is likely that they will be unstable. There will be some instability in both the countries, in Myanmar as well as Nepal. Uh, so it is just some instability and some nuisance on the borders that we have to deal with. But I don't expect it to cross the threshold where it becomes a big problem. And also, I said that there can be some instability. Some of the instability in Nepal can actually result in some positive changes for the country in the coming 12 months, which may be actually slightly positive for India. That is also possible in the next 12 months.
You mean to say on the Nepal side, positive what kind? Political changes?
Internally, some political changes in the Nepalese society are possible in the next 12 months, and those changes can be pro India. Basically, it can be beneficial to India than pro China. So that kind of changes are possible. But the thing is, there'll be a lot of chaos. There'll be a lot of civil fighting in Nepal in the coming 12 months. But the end result may be positive for India. That's what I'm saying. But in the case of Myanmar, I don't really see any clarity. I see a lot of mess for the next couple of years.
Okay. Now, one of the most important questions. When do you see Operation Sindhu 2 resuming? Because everybody is waiting for that. We see a lot of preparations going on. Someday Agni 5 is there, Agni 6 is there, then some other Tejas is there. A lot of preparation we see happening. So when is Operation Sindhu 2 coming back?
Actually, the time frame when it is possible has already just kicked in after the Independence Day. Today is August 28th. So the time has already started around the last week of August onwards. September, October is a conducive time. So it is possible that it will happen in the next couple of months. I will not rule it out at all. But the thing is, if people are expecting armies to march into, let's say, Pakistan, or Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, it may not exactly work out that way. It may work out. See, because of the first phase of Operation Sindhu, there are some fissures in the Pakistani government and Pakistani army that opened up. So it may not be visible to us from outside. Pakistan may be portraying this picture that, oh, Pakistan is strong, US is on our side, etc. But I don't really expect US to be on Pakistan's side. US is just wanting to exploit Pakistan and particularly control Balochistan, control the natural resources in Balochistan. So I expect that in the next few months, Pakistan will end up being neither supported by US nor supported by China. Basically, they will be neither here nor there. And secondly, the tensions between Sharif government and Munirji, the army person, those tensions will become simmer in the coming months. And also within the army against Munir's leadership, there may be some tensions. So Pakistan will have their own headaches to deal with in the next couple of months. And then what India will mostly do is Operation Sindoor 2.0 will mostly be covert rather than overt, basically. Instead of missiles and instead of army, instead of jets, it will be more covered. And some of the forces that are within POJK that are pro India, or at least anti Pakistan, they will get some support from support from India, and their rebellion against the Pakistani government and army will increase in this phase. And then at the opportune time, India may also support them with some strikes. So there may be some overt measures, but I think there may be more covert measures. But the time has already started. So late August, September, October, November. This is really this is the time it is likely, and this is actually what we, if you remember, in our very first discussion before Operation Sindhu started, when we talked about it, we talked about the possibility of some strikes in May, and then basically a longer phase that is aimed at really weakening Pakistan and taking away Pakistan occupied Jammu Kashmir in the late August, September, October timeframe. So that is what we discussed at that time. So I think it is still possible. And another thing that strikes me is the reason India has been reticent to talk to US about the trade deal, because there were credible reports in the last few days that Trump tried to call Modi ji a few times, and Modi ji did not pick up the phone. And obviously there are some sticking points in the trade deal, like for example agriculture, dairy, etc. But the thing is, apart from that, there, there may be other things that don't come in the news. For example, in the defense deal, basically getting some defense technology from US, but with more control, so that India can do some customization. So there may be some aspects that are still sticky points between the two countries. But apart from that, what I expect is two factors. One is India probably wants to make US wait and make them more desperate and get more favorable terms in the final deal. And secondly, probably there is some unfinished business with Pakistan that India wants to do in terms of Operation Sindhu. So they probably think that it will be a better idea to make a proper trade deal after doing certain steps in Operation Sindhu too. So that is also possible. So we may see some action vis-a-vis Pakistan and Kashmir, and after that, basically there may be some traction in the trade talks with US. And in the end, I expect that when a deal is made between US and India in in the coming few months and possibly November timeframe, they will probably also have some clear agreement with respect to Pakistan, like how US will deal with Pakistan's. Uh, US will probably be pushed by India to basically push Pakistan to a corner, not be so cozy with Pakistan. But at the same time, there are some fundamental interests of US in Pakistan. Like uh, there are some US bases, and US has strategic interest in Balochistan, where it competes with China. So probably India will make some concessions, and US will get something in the deal, and India will get something. For example, if India goes all out into Kashmir, US will not really interfere. So some agreement along those lines with respect to Pakistan may be made under the table between US and India. It may not come out as a part of the trade deal, but basically it may be the unwritten portion of the trade deal. So it is likely that by the end of this year there'll be some clear agreements between India and US, and Pakistan will end up the loser. Even though right now people on the social media are saying, "Oh, Pakistan is the winner. They have US on their side. They have China on their side." I think that they will they will end up being na ghar ka na ghat ka.
So finally, their true colors will come out. Operation Sindoor 2.0 very soon. Now, agar finances per hai na, how
Hmm.
do you see the finances and the growth of Bharat? Because all this chaos has started because Bharat has started doing well again, and that is where Trump. And then we have a big market, huge market.
Right.
So everybody wants an access to that market. How do you see our growth happening in next couple of years in terms of, in general, in terms of stock exchange, in terms of GDP and other things?
Yeah, you made a great point. See, U.S. economy has been uh, slowly weakening in the last several years. There is that general angst in the U.S. society, and economy is just barely holding up, mainly because U.S. dollar is the common currency. So U.S. is basically U.S. has some 30-40 trillion dollars of debt. Still, things are holding up somehow, but U.S. economy is slowly weakening, and India has been taking off. So this is one of the reasons, one of the motivations. Basically, Trump is trying to very bravely tackle this. Instead of kicking the can down, he's trying to make some big changes which will get US debt under control. And he has good intentions, but I think it will backfire, not just with India. In general, this whole tariff war will backfire on US. This will actually accelerate the slow decay of US that has been happening for many years. So, but the thing is, as far as India is concerned, this is exactly the reason why Trump cannot stick to this for too long, because US companies, they want access to the Indian market. They don't want to be affected by any countermeasures that India takes in the coming months. So there will be pressure on Trump from the US companies, and probably there already is. And moreover, I do not think that Trump really wanted to take this all the way. He was expecting this to end very soon, and he's probably disappointed himself. So in the end, India will give him a deal that he can basically sell as a win for him internally, but at the same time, India will not compromise on most important things. So in terms of the stock market and overall markets, this may have a small short-term impact, but I don't expect, looking at India's chart for the next few years, what I see is there are some challenges to the markets in India, just like the whole world. The second half of 2025 and 2026 are a challenging time for world economy. So there may be some setbacks and some tensions for the whole world economy. And relatively, compared to other countries like US, India is actually better off. So India will do fine, just fine. Indian market will suffer in accordance with the rest of the markets, but it will do better than the rest of the world in the coming year and a half, which is actually a very critical time for the world. And secondly, this trade war will have a negligible short-term impact, because I don't expect this to last too long. This will settle down in a few months, and once it settles down, basically impact that we may see in the coming weeks, it will basically be undone. So I'm not too concerned about Indian market, but I'm concerned about world economy in general over the next year and a half.
Perina, is there anything that I have missed which you see happening around very fast across the country, across the world? Why do I feel that there are some wars which are still going to be started? I mean, some new wars are right on the right around the turn.
Yeah, unfortunately, as I mentioned several times in the past, this is not a time of peace. This is actually a time of slow march towards a big war, which will be in 2030, 2031. So the various wars that Israel has, this will only intensify. Israel, I don't see peace for Israel for the foreseeable future. So whatever they are doing in Gaza, it may spill over to some other neighboring countries, and there may be aggression with respect to other countries. And Iran and Israel conflict that basically ended for now, but in the next 12 months, I'm not sure that it has completely ended. It may pick up again, and there may be more hostilities between Iran and Israel. Direct hostilities, not using proxies like in the past years. So direct hostilities between Iran and Israel are possible. So Middle East will be burning, unfortunately, for the next year and a half or so. So I don't see any respite in Middle East. And also India, Pakistan, uh, it's not done yet. Operation Sindhu may commence and there may be some conflicts. But the thing is, one area where I do see potential for peace is Ukraine. I I mentioned in my annual predictions video in March that when the Sade Sati ended for Ukraine in March, when Saturn moved away to Pisces, the Sade Sati ended. And if you note, actually, the war started when Saturn was very close to Ukraine's natal moon. In the independence chart, moon is at the end of Capricorn. And Sade Sati, peak Sade Sati is when the war started. So March Sade Sati ended. But I said that till August, there's no hope. But in August, the real window opens because based on their new annual chart that started a few days back, there is potential for peace in Ukraine. So it is. I know that we have seen some escalation between Russia and Ukraine in the last few days, but this may be just posturing. This may be setting some clear lines and basically making sure that you get a better deal. And even though the talks between Putin and Trump in Alaska were an utter failure because that happened on a terrible date. It happened on Ashtami, Bharani Nakshatra. The Muhurta was Kanja Lagna with 8th Lord, Mars in Lagna, terrible Muhurta. So there was no hope for that particular day. But the thing is, there'll be more rounds. So it is likely that before August 2026, between August 2025 and before August 2026, there is a good chance that there will be finally a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, even though I don't think it will last long. It will be probably a year or two. And after that, again, there'll be a conflict involving Ukraine. But the thing is, there is a chance for peace. But in the annual chart of Ukraine, it seems like in the Dashamsha chart, which was government, the 10th Lord of President is in the 8th house of fall. So it is likely that Zelensky will have to be sacrificed. Zelensky will have to go. He will basically not let peace come, and Modi and the deep state and CIA will do some manipulations to get rid of Zelensky and install a government that is basically pro peace and make a peace deal. And it may not make the supporters of Ukraine happy because they may have some losses, they may have to concede some land, etc. And this is a great time for Putin. In Putin's chart, he has Labseni, he has Dhanaguru, he has basically excellent transit. So it'll be a pro-Russia and unfortunately anti-Ukraine peace deal, but it's likely in the coming year. And if I were to put a narrow window, I will say probably in the March time frame because Jupiter is going to be stationary at around 22 degrees of Gemini on March 10th or 11th. And Ukraine's Lagna in the independence chart is actually 21 degrees or 22 degrees in Sagittarius. So Jupiter, the Lagna Lord, will be exactly aspecting Lagna being stationary. So that's a great time for some stability, some peace, etc. So around that time frame, around mid-March, so February, March, April time frame, probably that is when we are looking at peace for Ukraine. So that's the only exception. In general, other than that, probably we are looking at more conflicts. and more economic tensions, and economic tensions feeding more conflicts. But one more point. See, people think that Trump is a peace person, but the thing is, he is basically a money person. He wants U.S. industry to do well, and military industrial complex is a big part of U.S. economy. So if there are more conflicts and they can dump all the weapons and create new weapons with AI technology, basically, see, compared to the technology we had earlier, we have better technology now. So you can have the next generation of weapons. So US wants to dump all these weapons. So my suspicion is once the Ukraine deal happens, Trump can finally get his Nobel Peace Prize. He really wants Nobel Peace Prize. And one more thing, I will not be surprised if Modi ji has a role to play in the Ukraine Russia peace deal. But the thing is, he'll be smart enough to give complete credit to Modi ji, Trump, because getting the right trade deal is in India's interest. But getting credit for Ukraine Russia peace, it doesn't really matter. So Modi ji will actually make good with Trump at that time, and Trump will get a lot of credit. And once he is assured that he will get peace deal, he can now completely encourage Israel to do whatever they want to do in the Middle East, and perhaps start some new war fronts across the world, and also probably take on China in a more aggressive manner in the Southeast Asia. So once the monkey is off the back of Trump, the monkey of Nobel Peace Prize, I think he'll be more unrestrained and he can actually do the bidding of US military industrial complex and deep state. So I think 2026 may be a crazy year.
जी, thank you so much Periana for joining. जाने से पहले Periana has his own YouTube channel and also a website vedicastrologer.org. I'll pin both the links in the chat box. You can connect him there and you can ask questions on his email that is provided in the description box. थैंक यू सो मच. जाने से पहले सभी व्यूअर्स से रिक्वेस्ट है, प्लीज लाइक सब्सक्राइब और शेयर करना ना भूलें. अगर आप कंट्रीब्यूट करना चाहते हैं, फीडबैक देना चाहते हैं, मुझसे जुड़ना चाहते हैं, तो सभी के सभी लिंक्स डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में. इसी के साथ जय हिंद, जय श्री राम, हर हर महादेव.
जय हिंद, जय श्री राम, जय महाकाल.
जय महाकाल.